y'all, and welcome to the Healthy by Heather Brown podcast, where I encourage you in healthy mind, body, and spirit through my Sunday reset. Let's get into it. What if your child's behavior, sleep struggles, or focus issues weren't just behavioral, but breathing related? Today, I'm joined by Amanda from Salt and Light Therapy, a speech-language pathologist specializing in airway and oral function. And if you missed episode 78 with Campbell Will, where we talked about mouth breathing, please go back and listen, because today we're taking that conversation one step deeper. Okay, Amanda, welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you.
Hey, Heather. Thank you so much for having me on. I really look forward to sharing information with you and your amazing audience
Yes,
today.
Absolutely. Amanda's so great. We just started going to Amanda with Finn, my youngest, not too long ago, and then Leighton just had his evaluation. And so once we got in there, I told Amanda, I have got to have you on the show because my audience needs to learn all the things I'm learning from you. So it's so great. So let's start here. What is one thing that you wish every parent knew about their child's breathing or mouth development that most people overlook?
Okay, that's a loaded question. So I'm going to break it down into just a few little things that I think is going to be really helpful for your audience. Mouth breathing. Okay, so we know we should breathe through our nose. That's optimal. Nasal breathing is what we want. But some people are breathing through their mouth, and there could be a lot of different reasons for that. But it can have a lot of negative impacts on not only your child, but you if you're doing it as a parent. And so when we're talking about mouth breathing, it's not just a habit. It's a sign that the body is actually struggling to rest and restore. And so if that child is breathing through their mouth all night, they're not getting deep quality sleep that their brain needs. And the biggest piece of the puzzle I want to emphasize to parents is sleep isn't just about being in bed. It's about how you breathe while you're there.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yes.
And it's funny because Amanda will even ask me, like, do your boys, mouth breathe when you're going through the evaluation and everything? And I knew Finn did. And I even expressed that in the interview with Campbell Will. I was like, you're really making me think about my son. He mouth breathes. But we always tell him, like, buddy, try to breathe through your mouth closed. But then I realized when I went in their rooms, I've been talking to Amanda, oh no, their mouth is open almost all night if I go in there and check on them. And I had no idea how detrimental that was until you and I started talking more.
Yes. And so, we all need good restful sleep. And so we can kind of like take a 10,000-foot view of this. And if we look down at just mouth breathing in general and just kind of break that down. So it not only affects their restoration and their sleep, it affects their attention. And so I have lots of parents, their kids. Now, don't get me wrong. Some kids are just high energy and they're easily distracted. And all of this depends on the age. And so we have to parse this out on a child by child basis. But if a child can't breathe well, they cannot focus. And it's really just that simple. And so this is when kids often get labeled as inattentive, or like hyperactive, when in reality, they're just under oxygenated. They're not getting enough airflow. And so when the airway isn't supported, the brain isn't supported either. And so it's kind of like a ripple effect. One thing leads to another, which leads to another.
Yeah. So do you even think that some people might have kids that are getting diagnosed with either ADD or ADHD, but it might actually be that they're just not breathing well at night and then they don't have the control of their body? Or I don't know. What do you think about all that?
I think there's a lot of that happening. And so I don't know how other people, react or feel to, diagnoses or medication, but I want to take the path of least resistance. So before we put the child on the medication, let's look at the root cause. Why are they hyperactive? Why are they having attention issues? Are they getting too much sugar? Are they not doing enough movement and exercise? Are they not getting enough heavy work in there? Or are they just not getting good restorative sleep, which is affecting their oxygen and their overall sleep quality? And then they wake up and it's like a loaded bullet. And, for us adults, when we're tired, we're just we're kind of dragging throughout the day. Not with kids, they crank it up a couple of knots. And so they're going to be running around acting wild. And so we may not correlate that with poor sleep quality.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of it is that people they're going with mainstream, like what they're hearing, ADD, ADHD, let's see what we can do. But I encourage parents to look deeper and to see a root cause and to see, oh, I need to be checking in on my kiddo at night and looking at them, like, and listening to them. Like, is their mouth open? And Heather, when I say open, it doesn't have to be like gaping open. Literally, the lips just need to be parted. And if the lips are parted, air is coming in through that mouth.
Yes. And Amanda, you do such a good job of this in your sessions. Will you tell everybody kind of how you break that down to kids? Like, I love hearing you say, like, why do we breathe? Like, just go through those basic questions. And because I feel like it's so educational for parents here too.
Yeah, of course. And so when kiddos come into my office, we talk about the function of the mouth and the nose. And I ask the kiddos, like, hey, what do you use your mouth for? And most of them will say eating and talking. For some reason, they forget drinking. Like, we kind of need it for that. But I'm like, your mouth has three purposes. It's for eating, drinking, and talking. And that's all your mouth is for. And then we talk about the nose. Like, what do we use our nose for? And most of them know that we use it for breathing, but they also think that their mouth is for breathing too. And so I just reinforce to them, like, no, 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 no. Our mouth is only for these three things, and our nose is for breathing. And then we break it down a little bit further, and we talk about why we breathe through our nose, and that inside of our nose, there is a filtration system there. And it does a lot of great things. So if it's really cold outside and we go out and we breathe, that filter system in our nose helps warm the air. But it also filters the air. It filters the dust, the particles, and the germs that are in the air. And our mouth does not do that. And so we talk about how the filter system in our nose helps our body to stay healthy. It supports our immune system. But if our mouth is open and we're breathing through our mouth, all those dust particles and germs are going right into our mouth, which leads into our body, which causes us to have compromised immune system and increased risk for getting sick.
Yes. And y'all, she does such a great job. Like, my boys were so engaged when she was asking these questions, and she also makes it so fun for them because she'll ask them questions and they might do a few like exploratory things or exercises. Then she's like, okay, we're going to play a game. Which game would you like to play? So, like Layton chose a beanbag toss yesterday and just had the best time in there. So you just do so good with kids. It's incredible. So
thank you. I appreciate
You're
that.
so welcome. And Girl Gang, I'm going to link down in the show notes to episode 78 with Campbell Will. But we talked a lot on there about how breathing affects the nervous system. But Amanda, you take that a little deeper. So will you tell us what role does the tongue and mouth actually play in breathing? And will you talk a little bit about the garage analogy you give kids? So I think that's so cool and helpful too.
Yeah, of course. I would love to do that. So when we're looking at our mouth, and so optimal tongue rest posture is resting in the roof of your mouth. And so if you think of the roof of your mouth as your garage for your car, that's where your tongue should be. So we've said earlier, our mouth is for eating, drinking, and speaking. But if your mouth is not doing those things, your tongue should be resting in the top of your mouth in your garage. And so while your tongue is there, your lips should be lightly touching each other, and your teeth should be apart just a little bit. We call it freeway space. So we want to make sure when we are at oral rest posture that our teeth aren't touching each other. They're just lightly apart. The tongue is up in the roof of your mouth in your garage. Your lips are lightly touching, and that promotes nasal breathing. And so if your tongue is resting low in your mouth, it can actually put pressure on your lower jaw and kind of pop your mouth open a little bit. And again, when I say a little bit, it's just the lips are barely touching each other. And so what happens then is it's kind of like a domino effect. So if your tongue isn't resting in the proper place, and it's resting low, it's going to automatically make your mouth open, which is going to reinforce mouth breathing. It's really important that if our tongue is resting in our garage, which is where it's supposed to be all the time, even at night while we're sleeping. And so if we can, let's talk about that portion for just a minute,
let's do it.
Because I want to talk about something that a lot of parents aren't really aware of. So at night, when your body is resting and your tongue is up in your garage, it actually stimulates your vagus nerve, and it also releases something called your antidiuretic hormone. So at night, when we're sleeping, that hormone, if your tongue is resting in your garage, it signals to your brain that it's not time to go to the bathroom. And so I have a lot of parents come in and they have kiddos that are well past potty training and they're 6 and 7 years old, but they're having nighttime accidents and they're having them like on a weekly basis. And so then we look at, is that tongue resting where it should be? Because that actually regulates the nervous system, helps our body go into rest and digest, and stimulates that antidiuretic hormone, which helps our body signal it's not time to go to the bathroom. But if that tongue isn't resting in the garage like it needs to be, those signals aren't happening within the body. And so that's when we can have nighttime accidents.
That is so interesting. And
I thought so too.
I had no idea that bedwetting could be, well, a lot of the symptoms I had no idea meant that there could be issues with your airway. So let's go ahead and maybe talk a little bit about that. What are some of the biggest red flags that parents should watch for, especially ones that are brushed off often as normal, like either snoring or bedwetting? Are there other things people might want to be looking for with their kids?
Yeah, definitely. So, of course, now I want to talk about mouth breathing just for a
Do
minute.
it.
And snoring is the same thing as audibly breathing. And so some parents don't realize their child has their mouth open because they're maybe standing at the doorway to their room and they don't hear them snoring. That doesn't mean they're not audibly breathing. And so I want to encourage parents to get a little closer to their kiddos at night and see if they can actually hear them breathing, because we shouldn't hear that. And we want to make sure we're looking at our kiddos and making sure that mouth is closed and the lips are lightly touching each other when they're asleep. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that really quick because I think that one gets overlooked a lot. People think snoring is just I mean, it sounds like a freight train coming through there.
Yes.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be loud. It can be really discreet.
Okay, that's good.
Another red flag is being a restless or an agitated sleeper. What that looks like is your kid goes to bed at night and then you go in the morning to wake them up and they have turned sideways in their bed. Their sheets are all tangled up. It really looks like a tornado has come into the bed with them at night. And so if they're a restless or an agitated sleeper, that is a reason to look at some things deeper and see if there's something else happening there. Also, like there's a couple of other little things. If they're doing a lot of excessive drooling at night, or if they're having vocal changes during the day. So if their voice is getting hoarse and raspy and things like that, those are other red flags that I think often get overlooked. I mean, I think, you know, from the 10,000-foot view, if anybody were to Google this, they would definitely see, oh, attention issues, snoring, but they're probably not going to look for the bedwetting, the restless or agitated sleeper, the vocal changes, and the drooling. So I definitely think those are some other things we need to look for and look at.
Yeah, absolutely. So if somebody's hearing this and they're like, oh man, my kid does bedwet, or it does look like a tornado, has happened in their bed, what is their first step? Like, what kind of things should they be documenting or noticing? Can they reach out to you? Like, what does all that look like?
Yeah, and so we can't really separate our mouth from our body, so function matters, and breathing is where it all truly begins. And so if they're noticing things, I want to encourage them to look at next steps. So like for me, if a parent comes in, even if they come in for the evaluation, sometimes I send them back out for the next visit, like, hey, I need you to take a 1-minute video of your kiddo sleeping or taking a nap, because what they see and what I see are not the same thing. And I'll also have them take videos and photos of their kids eating, because sometimes if we can't properly coordinate our breathing with our swallowing, it can look different for kiddos. And that's where we have a lot of children that might be messy eaters or picky eaters. Like all of these things are intertwined. And so I think from a parent standpoint, start making notes, start documenting them. And if you're in the Birmingham area or even just in Alabama in general, you are more than welcome to reach out to me. I would love to help you guys walk you through what like those next steps would be to better support your family and so that your child can have a healthy, happy quality of life.
Yes, absolutely. So, Amanda, would you say that mouth breathing can actually change facial growth? And you mentioned sleep quality or long-term health over time?
Yes. And so when we're looking at craniofacial growth and development, your face should grow forward and out. And so when our tongue is resting in our garage like it should be, and we have proper tongue rest posture, that promotes good facial growth. Now, genetics does play a huge role in this, so we have to look at all of the pieces of the puzzle. But overall, if somebody has a low resting tongue posture and it's kind of pulling their jaw downward, that's when you're going to see those people with a longer face. And just walking out in public, I can just look at somebody and tell them whether they have sleep disordered breathing. They don't need to say anything to me. I can look at the way their face is.
Wow, that's wild. Well, and
Yes.
explain a little bit more about that too, even with posture, because I know you had us like take pictures of posture too, and I was like, whoa, what is that? What are you looking for there? You know?
Yeah. And so I'm looking at the whole body. Anytime you come in and see me or a lot of the great practitioners in the Birmingham area, we take a whole person approach. And so I'm looking at you from your head to your toe. As a speech pathologist, there's some things that are not in my scope of practice, and I'll refer out to that. But I look at your posture when you come in. So I'm looking at, how is your head placement? Do you have forward head posture? Because if your head is too far forward, it actually negatively impacts your ability to rest your tongue in the garage where it needs to live, because you're putting a lot of strain on your neck and your shoulders, and you're going to have a hard time keeping your tongue up there. And so I look at posture. I'm looking at how is your head in alignment with your shoulders? What does that look like for your hips? Do you have an anterior pelvic tilt or a posterior pelvic tilt? How do you stand and hold your body? Because all of that helps me look at your ability to be able to successfully obtain proper tongue rest posture and follow through with the exercises. And so sometimes, if somebody comes in and they have a forward head posture, we might refer out to either a chiropractor or physical therapy to work on, overall core strength, getting that head back to where it needs to be so everything can be in alignment, and that improves your ability to keep your tongue where it should rest.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like I have to mention on here because I don't know. Amanda, are you familiar with Dr. John Palmer? He's at Archetype. He's my chiropractor.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm obviously a huge believer in chiropractic care. And if you guys have any questions about that, I'm also going to link back to past episodes with him too, because he's talked so much about whole health and what that looks like from the top of your head down to the bottom. It's all connected. So let's talk a little bit then too, because you mentioned to me yesterday about thumb sucking. And I said, I guess, just to give y'all a little bit of background, if you haven't been around here for long, one of my babies really struggled. They both like their thumb in the beginning. They love to suck their thumb in the corner of their blanket. And it sucks because obviously the pacifier, you just take it away and it's kind of like, when it's done, it's done. You might have to deal with some crying, but it's going to be okay. The thumb, you can't exactly just take it away. And then I found out that it's so many things compounded on the other. So one of my kids really struggled to eat. They were very sensitive to food textures. He fell off the growth chart. He struggled to nurse in the beginning. My milk even ended up drying up. It was just this terrible, terrible cycle. And I feel like if I would have known someone like Amanda, I would have been so much more set up for some of these things being cues that I needed help earlier. So maybe can you just talk a little bit to the moms that are newer, or maybe they even listen to the show and they have grandkids or their sisters are having babies and they're seeing the thumb sucking, they're seeing or hearing the word tongue tie, they're struggling to eat the textured foods. Give us a little bit of a breakdown of all that, because I was so clueless back then.
Okay, yeah, of course. All right, so let's break this down in a few quick little parts. Oral habits. All right, so that's kind of the catch-all phrase that I use, and that can be prolonged pacifier use, thumb sucking, finger sucking, it can even be lip licking, it can even be chewing on pens and pencils. I had one kid that was putting her shoe in her mouth and chewing on it.
I'm like, oh,
I know. Just anything was going to her mouth. Yeah. And so when we look at oral habits, first of all, we have to look at, why are they doing this? Again, root cause. Why are they doing this? Now, if we look at pacifier use, and if you talk to a different provider, they're probably going to give you different information. And so from a speech language pathologist standpoint, we look at function. So I'm looking at the function of the mouth. And so we want to stop pacifier use by 12 to 18 months if possible. Okay? Some people say 3 years. No. No, no, no. We need to stop before then, okay? Because our body is designed to start chewing things. And if we're still sucking on pacifiers, bottles, and heaven forbid those pouches, don't get me started on pouches.
I'm like, we might need to hear more. What?
I mean, like, don't get me started. Because if your kiddo is 2 and 3 years old and they're still sucking on something, that changes the way their palate and their teeth grow and develop.
Oh, wow.
We should be chewing and eating things.
Wow. Okay.
So we want to look at starting to taper off that pacifier use around 12 months and then see if we can get rid of it completely by 18 months. All right, there's one caveat here. And this is something I tell all of my families. If you take your pacifier away from your child and 2 or 3 weeks later they've got their thumb in their mouth, give the pacifier back. That's easier to stop than the thumb.
Okay.
Because that thumb can stay with them till they're 5 and 6 years old. Unless you come see me.
That's right. Well, actually, that was so interesting. I was in Amanda's office this week with one of my boys, and she was just telling me that she just had a little girl who was a thumb sucker. And within 5 days of doing this habit correcting, that she had quit sucking her thumb. That's a huge win, Amanda. That's really, really good.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm really, and I really do a lot of prep work with my families because the key here to this program is readiness. Everybody has to be ready. And even if the child comes in and they're not quite ready yet, I can start setting them up on some things to help the family get them ready. Like Heather, it's all rainbows and sunshine and unicorns. It's a positive experience. We're going to pick out our prize. We're going to get amazing Band-Aids and sticker charts. It's going to be a big thing. Like I give them a big bag full of stuff and they're so excited to walk out with all their tools, and you'll hear them. They'll walk out the door. I'm never sucking my thumb again.
Oh,
I'm like, yes, that baby has bought into the program and we are ready to roll.
I love that so much. I do. Okay. Don't forget what you're going to say next, Amanda, but this is so mind blowing to me because I just finished recording an episode are you familiar with the Weston A. Price Foundation? Okay. Yes. So Holistic Hilda runs that show. She was on my podcast. It's coming out soon. But one of the things that she said is one of the biggest things that she wished she could tell parents is to quit feeding your kids out of pouches as well, which was like the very last thing I thought I was going to hear her say. But she said it's because of all the plastic that's within the packages also of all those pouches. And I was like, I did not even think about that. But they're ingesting so much plastic because it's even leaching more in the food trucks. They carry them around the nation. They're getting hot. I was like, this is mind blowing. So I'm like, just re-emphasizing that same point. Yes, no pouches. Let's not do that. Let's not do that. So good. You're basically saying go back old school, like spoon, the airplane, the baby food, right?
Absolutely. Okay. We should be using utensils. Okay. And I also want to harp on, let's try to skip the sippy cups, moms and dads.
Yeah.
Skip the sippy. Again, a sippy cup is a lateral move from a bottle. We're still sucking. And we need to start using a straw and an open cup when it's appropriate. Now, don't get me wrong. If we're in the car and going places, we have to do things differently. Sure. But when the opportunity arises, we need to start teaching that kiddo how to drink from an open cup.
When you say a straw, if you're trying to replace a sippy cup, do you have a brand that you really recommend that people work on transitioning from the bottle to with a straw instead of the sippy cup?
I don't. I mean, anything that has a straw in it. Okay. I know there's a lot of talk out there about like this special straw. It's called the Replenish straw. But again, I told you the other day, I'm your budget-friendly therapist.
I do appreciate that. Yes.
Right. Yeah. So if it's over $5, I'm probably not recommending it for you.
That's good. And that's why we love you so great, Amanda.
I'm like, let's just keep it simple. We don't need any special tools. We can keep it really simple.
Yes, that's so good. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the speech delays and tongue ties. Those come up a lot. When should parents ask deeper questions instead of waiting those things out?
Okay, really great question. And I get that a lot because I have a lot of people call up here and they're like, I think my child has a tongue tie. Okay. And it's going to be okay.
Okay.
It's going to be okay. We're not going to get stressed out about it. Okay. Because as a speech language pathologist and a myofunctional therapist, I'm going to look at your tongue from 3 different places and your tongue tie. Okay. First of all, is that restriction impacting your child's ability to put it in the correct place to make all of their speech sounds? Okay. The second thing I'm going to look at is your child able to elevate their tongue and retract it for a correct swallow pattern? Okay, because there is a right way and a wrong way to swallow, just like there's a right way and a wrong way to breathe. And so when we swallow, our tongue should go up and back. And so sometimes people's tongue ties limit their ability to do that. And then what they're doing is they're pushing their tongue on the back of their teeth to facilitate the swallow. And, we talked about this when you guys were here the other day. Our tongue should not touch our teeth. Our tongue should not be pushing on our teeth, especially when we swallow. We swallow like 500 and 600 times a day. And so we want to make sure we have the correct swallow pattern so it's not negatively impacting our dentition.
Well, and that makes me think, Amanda also has this really cool, huge mouth. And so she uses it to show the kids, and there's the tongue in there. And she talks about, so I'm actively working on this right now because I'm hearing her talk to my kids about it, that my tongue should be resting on what she calls your bumpy spot and not touching the back of your teeth. Because naturally, I think when I'm not thinking about it, my tongue does touch the back of even my retainer on my 2 front teeth. And so I'm really working on, no, put it to your bumpy spot, Heather.
Pull it back. Pull it back.
But it's hard. It's hard when you're used to just doing your normal patterns that aren't right,
Yeah. And so that speech and that swallowing. Okay. And we talked about this yesterday, so I'm going to touch on it briefly. I can bill for speech therapy that affects your speech and your swallowing. Okay. That's a billable service. I can bill for that. There's a code for those things. Now let's go into myofunctional therapy. The third thing we look at is, can you obtain proper tongue rest posture? Can your tongue actually rest in your garage comfortably, stay there during the day and night? Because a lot of adults that come in, they don't have speech problems. They've learned to compensate some with a little bit of their swallowing. Sometimes we have to refine that a little bit. But a lot of them have more of a posterior tongue tie, and the mid and back portion of their tongue can't actually get in the garage because the tongue tie is pulling it down and it's keeping them from resting it there. And this is especially problematic at night. During the day, they can probably keep it there. But at nighttime, because gravity works and the restriction under the tongue is pulling the tongue, when they lay down, it pulls the tongue back and down. And so they're not able to rest their tongue there at night, which is leading to mouth breathing, snoring, sleep disordered breathing, and even sleep apnea.
Yikes. That's a long list. I'm like, ugh.
It is. It's a lot of stuff.
Wow. So I guess, Amanda, is there anything that, if they're hearing this and they're like, oh, that might be me. So you're saying that you can't bill insurance for that, but they could come in and get help out of pocket, basically, is what you're saying, right?
You can, absolutely. And these are all very valid things. Just because insurance doesn't cover it doesn't mean it's not important. And I like to emphasize that to people.
Yes.
And I am well aware that there is no money tree. And so for people coming in, if they're having to private pay for something, I do offer payment plans, and I do have third-party financing to help people with all of this stuff, because healthcare and getting to the root cause should be accessible to everyone.
Agree. I so wholeheartedly agree. What would you say that if a parent is listening to this and thinking that sounds like my kid, what is the first thing that they should check at home? Is it them at night sleeping, or is there anything else that I missed?
I would, if they're concerned about their child, they should at least maybe go in about 3 or 4 nights a week and look and listen and see what's happening when they're sleeping.
Okay.
I would definitely encourage that. And then the next thing is, if they're concerned, they want to seek professional help. And you can come see me if you have concerns about them being able to nasal breathe properly. Sometimes we have a hard time breathing through our nose. And there could be a couple of reasons for that. It could be that you have a really vaulted palate, and the floor of the mouth, the roof of the mouth is the floor of the nose. And so if your palate, which is the top part of your mouth, is vaulted upward, it's encroaching on your nasal space. And sometimes we just can't get good airflow because of that. Or there could be another issue where you might need to see an ENT to check out your tonsils, your adenoids, and your turbinates. Those are all things that could be enlarged or inflamed that could be impacting the ability to breathe properly. So there's a lot of different avenues you could go down, just kind of seeing what's going on with your particular child. For the families that come here, I've worked really hard to try to create a network of trusted providers that I can refer to. So even if somebody comes here and I'm like, hey, I'm seeing X, Y, and Z, but I really think our first step is to go see an ENT first and look at some things from a medical standpoint and then move forward with speech or myofunctional therapy because I want to make sure I'm guiding people in the right direction.
Yes, I think that's so wise. Are there any simple daily habits like chewing or posture or nasal breathing that support healthy airway development that people could start working on themselves or with their kids?
Yeah, of course. This is something we talked about the other day, and I think you guys are doing it at home. But one of the things I tell all of my families is after you brush your teeth, blow your nose. You can't breathe through your nose properly if there's stuff in there. And so we have to get into the routine of doing really good nasal hygiene. And so you want to make sure, like as a family, that you're blowing your nose and keeping it as clean as possible. Make sure you're encouraging your child. Sometimes you have to blow it more than once to get everything out of there. There's yucky stuff in there, and we need to be able to get that out. Okay. The next thing I encourage people to do is have them start having their children practicing keeping their lips together. Just keep their lips lightly touching. And start looking at them and maybe commenting like, oh, I see your mouth's open. You're not a catfish. You're not trying to catch a fly. Close those lips.
I love it.
And, and I even have some families, they turn it into a game. Like, let's just say they leave school and they're driving home. All right, let's everybody keep our mouth closed and breathe through our nose all the way home. No talking. Everybody keep an eye on each other. Raise your hand if you need to tattle on somebody if you see their mouth open.
Oh, that is so great. I love that. Well, and I thought this was really cute too. Amanda gave the tip that you could cut out a picture or draw a picture of a nose and put it on your kid's mirror. So then that way, after they brush their teeth, they see that visual cue of the nose to blow their nose.
And just remember, like, oh yeah, I need to blow my nose.
That's right. So good. Well, I know, Amanda, we are quickly running out of time. So I do want to open the floor for you. Number one, will you tell everybody why? I'm just curious about this too. Amanda is also a believer, and I love that she named her practice Salt and Light. So will you tell us where the name comes from? And then also, will you just tell everybody that wants to connect with you online or to make an appointment or learn more, where can they find you?
Yeah, of course. So when I opened my business, the first thing is trying to find a name. Like, what am I going to call myself? And, I read a lot of information and it was like, don't use the name of your town. Don't use your name. I mean, all these things that told me not to do. And so I'm like, what can I do? And so I'm just kind of flipping through things and I saw the word salt and I'm like, And I don't know about you guys, but I feel like the Lord speaks to me through stamps. And I know that sounds crazy, but like if you have a little stamp and you just stamp something like past due, you made 100. I feel like the Lord takes that stamp and pops it in my head. And so literally he came down and bopped Salt and Light in my head and it just popped in my head. And so I feel like that was divinely inspired. It was absolutely a message from the Holy Spirit. And I'm so grateful for that because it has helped parents choose me because they feel comfortable that their faith is going to be honored and their personal choices will be honored and how I talk to and interact with their kids will be grace-filled. Oh, and so, yeah, I think that was completely from the Lord.
What a sweet God moment. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. And then so that they can find you online and connect with you, how then?
Absolutely. So you can go to my website, www.saltandlight-slp.com. I have a lot of information on there. On the very first page, there's a Get Started button. So if you're interested in services, we ask everybody to fill out that intake questionnaire because it's really important that we are a good fit for each other. And I don't ever want to waste anyone's time or resources. So if you fill out the intake questionnaire, my administrative assistant, Abby, will reach out to you and we will help you with next steps. You can follow me on Instagram at Salt and Light Speech Therapy. And I'm also on Facebook. I don't remember what I'm called there.
Search Salt and Light Therapy on Facebook, and I bet you come
There's
up.
a salt and light there too. There's a salt and light there too.
Yeah, so great. Hang on. So you said, Amanda, you said www.saltandlight
-slp.com.
So S like science, L like lion, P like predator. I don't know.
Potato.
I don't know why I'm coming up with these random words, but slp.com. So you guys can find her.
Yes.
Awesome. And then Abby, I want to close, or Amanda, I want to close and ask you the question I ask everybody, which is how do you reset?
Ooh, that's great. All right. So I kind of take the whole weekend to reset. So for me, my Saturday is really more of my Sabbath for me. You know, I still love the Lord and go to church on Sundays, but for me, Saturday is more of slowing down, taking naps, and resting my body so I can be fully present for my patients as well as my family. And then as a reset, of course, I do practical things around the home, like making sure I have my laundry done for the week.
Yes.
But I also spend my weekend just spending a lot of time in prayer for the families that I serve, my community, and what the Lord has for me to do next, how he wants to work through me, and what he wants me to do to honor him and help spread his word. But I also have devotionals that I do, lots of reading to kind of help me grow in my faith and just help me be a better person. And so I've just learned that caring for others starts with being well rested and grounded myself.
Yes, amen. You basically just preach the Sunday reset, which is what I talk about here all the time, like in a quick 30-second blip. So I love that. I'm like on board. Yay, so good. Well, Amanda, it was so fun to have you on today, and I think everybody learned so much from you. And I really hope that you guys will reach out to her, let her know what questions you have, shoot her a message on Instagram or Facebook, or schedule that initial consult. She's so good also at connecting you with other airway aware practitioners. So for instance, she recommended that I go to a dentist for my boys that are also airway aware, as well as an orthodontist. And then obviously we also have Dr. John, my chiropractor, in our back pocket. But it's so incredible to have a network of people like you've built that you can then help connect people that are looking for more of that root cause mentality versus just slapping a Band-Aid on it and calling it good. So thank you for your work in that.
Yes, I appreciate it. It's a labor of love, and it's a service to our community. So I'm glad I've been able to do that.
Me too. All right, girl gang. Well, thanks for joining us today, and we will see you next time. Have an awesome day and be blessed. Bye. Okay, friend, that's a wrap on this week's episode. If you're not already following me on Instagram, make sure to screenshot this episode, share it to your stories, and tag @healthy_by_Heather so I can connect with you in my DMs. It truly brings me so much joy to see how these episodes impact you. Make sure to subscribe so we can see you back here next Tuesday for our weekly show. In case you don't know, your downloads, ratings, and reviews are the actual lifeblood of this podcast, and it helps spread the word to your friends and family. So please hit the download button on this episode and leave a 5-star rating if you super loved it. And if we're really BFFs, you'll spread the happy and text this podcast link to someone who needs to hear it today for some encouragement. Scroll down to the show notes on this episode to see any and all links mentioned, freebies to fuel your health goals, prayer-related episodes, and the 7-day free trial of my exclusive membership where I personally coach and cheer you on in whole health. While you're there, make sure to check out my Amazon storefront with healthy snacks, my favorite look for less workout outfits, and books and devotionals that challenge me in my faith. If you ever need to find my Amazon storefront, just Google Healthy by Heather Brown Amazon and it will come up. Have a great day, girl gang.